Welcome to the Powerful Personal Brand Podcast, where my guests and I share tips and tricks to inspire you to build a great personal brand to increase your visibility and authority. I am your host, Claire Bahn, and on today's episode, I'm very excited to be joined by Brianna Rooney. Brianna is the founder and CEO of Talent Perch, Thriversity, The Millionaire Recruiter, and Techies that a firm just acquired in 2021. Brianna's business offers companies and individuals a 360-degree solution to recruiting and sourcing. She's really passionate about all things recruiting, and she is also a co-host of her own podcast called The Talent Takeover Unfiltered. Brianna is a mom and believes that you can be as successful at work as you are at home, and you don't have to choose. So she believes that we can be present and rock everything we do. I really love that. I feel like that kind of resonates with me. I feel the whole work-life balance thing is a really, it's so strange that it's like a kind of a polarizing thing. No, it's like polarizing. Like people are like, I hate it. It doesn't exist. And they're like kind of crazy about it. And my kind of take is like, well, you live and you work, so you have to find a balance. So therefore it exists. I would love to know, what are your kind of tips and tricks to kind of really finding that actual balance in your life?
Yeah, I think with anything, it's talk about it, like be very open with it. And also, act as is. So for example, like at work, we have a Slack. We have Slack channel. That's where all our vibes are. We're remote first. We do all these things. And so I now schedule Slacks. So like, let's just say, I don't know, I was out with my kids earlier, so I'm going to work a little bit later. And, because it doesn't really matter when you work, right? As long as you get it done. And so what I will do though, is even though I might be working and I feel like I haven't hit my hours, yet, I will schedule a Slack to go out the next day during normal work hours for whoever, my team member is, whether or not they are East Coast, West Coast, doesn't matter. I think about those things. So I'm still getting that work done. I'm not forgetting about it, but I'm still setting it to, work out for them and their work-life balance. Because I think that a lot of people, especially when you get to the top, you kind of like just are used to working at your own pace and your own hours and stuff. And if you're showing people that you're working late or you're sending an email at 2 a.m, which by the way, I've definitely done randomly, then that is showing that you actually don't value work-life balance. You preach it all you want, but you're not also giving it to other people. And so I think that is like a big one.
Yeah, I feel for me, I always just tell my team, you know what, we work in Monday.com. I'm like, I'm going to be working on the weekend. I'm going to be working late because I really don't start doing my work until 4:30 my time. It just, the whole day goes, it's kind of like everyone else's. And then I get to my stuff. It's kind of sad. I'm working on that balance part. But basically, I just tell people like, I will respond when I can. And it doesn't mean you need to respond. You respond when you're, so I kind of lay the groundwork because I can't schedule a response on Monday and I'm not going to be responding at 10 a.m. when I have a meeting. So I do it when I can, but I like that Slack idea. That's a good idea. I use Slack for some group that I was in, but I've never actually used it for work. So
I love it for work.
Really? Yeah. I feel like it's just one more thing because we have like Google and then you have Monday. And I just feel like it's that one more thing. Is it really that valuable? So is it really that valuable?
I think it is. So we actually have Monday.com too, but in fairness, like I'm not like as religious as Monday.com is like the rest of the team is. But we really focused on Slack from a culture aspect of things on like, how do people actually feel a part of the team still? We have a vibes channel. We have like an OnlyPans channel where we put all our food stuff in, so nice. Like, it's been really helpful in that manner. And then depending on what team the people are on, it would be if they use Monday or Slack more often. Okay. Well, I definitely think your teams might be a little bit larger than ours, but I could definitely see. But that is an interesting thing. I can definitely bring it up, see if the team wants to do that. I always learned that stuff. And I don't know about you when you're doing podcasts and you have guests and you're always like, I didn't think about that. I always leave learning something. Yeah, actually, you just gave me the chills because I think the same thing. This is why I even have like a pen and notepad next to me because I'm wondering what. I'm like, I wonder what I'm going to learn. Like I think it's always such a good idea because it's kind of a weird thing because I've learned over the process of doing this you have all these experts that are expert in their niche and things like that. And you kind of learn that like not everyone listens.
not everyone is good at communication. People like, and all these things that I'm just like, yeah, I guess I see that, but it's just kind of a weird thing. I'm like, well, all right, well, but you always end up learning something. So anyway, I definitely agree with you about the work-life balance. And I do try to schedule emails, but I'm not a big emailer. I usually kind of remember responding in Monday, but I don't think Monday will work with me on that. I wish they would schedule the response.
Yeah, I don't know enough about that. I feel like I want to Slack my team. I want to be like, does that work?
Yeah. I think I need to like, I'm one of those like annoying people on the software things where I'm always like, I need your software to do this. Like I'm QAing their stuff and I'm like telling them.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's probably one of the things that I need to be like, okay, here's what we need to do. So let's talk about kind of, because you're in the world of recruiting. And I'd love to know, I'm sure you work with like people at kind of all levels. So what do you think are the common mistakes that people make kind of once they feel like they've like hit it big in their career? Like what are common mistakes that people make?
Well, I mean, I can tell you what I made for sure.
Okay.
No, I think that, you define success in your mind and you define it at different levels, different stages. And then once you hit those thresholds, unless you actually acknowledge that one, yes, I hit it. Yay. High five for me. Then you're like, what's your next thing? And so I think at the tippity top, a lot of people struggle with, well, how do I define success now? Now let's see, I went from an individual contributor to a manager. Now my success is my team. Okay. Now when I'm up at VP, now what is it? Like what's driving me? Especially because, in recruiting, as an agency level, it is sales also, at the end of the day, you're still driving numbers, driving revenue. So it's like, what is that? What's the definition for you? And I think that's a mistake all the time. And in imposter syndrome, there's, I think all sorts of stuff happen, but I think it's because a lot of people pour from empty cups. So
what do you mean by that?
So, meaning like you're giving your team your all, you're mentoring, you're leading them, and you don't take that moment to like, hey, who's leading you? Who's mentoring you? Like you can preach all you want, like just how we talked about work-life balance.
Yeah.
You can preach it all you want, but do you do it yourself?
Yeah. I feel it's a weird thing because I feel like, you look at those personality tests and I feel like one of them where I was like, in college, I was like an extrovert, and like now I kind of think I'm more introverted and I have to be extroverted. So I definitely like that, like downtime. I definitely kind of like get off the clock, at the end of the day, like, 5, 6 is kind of like, I'm pretty much done. It doesn't leave a lot of time to do work where I'm just kind of like, but yeah, that's kind of like the thing. I do have days where I block off. Like I don't do podcasts basically Tuesday, Wednesday. So I block off days and things like that. But I definitely see that. But what we were talking about, like with the pen and paper, I find that sometimes this podcast helps fill my cup because because it's so nice. I feel like I bounce ideas off people. I learn things. I learn how to be a better manager. I learn how to be a better person. So I feel like in that sense, it kind of, we can all have really bad podcasts, right? You have a guest and you're just like, but I don't know. How do you feel? Like, I feel like it kind of fills me up a little bit because I learned something. I get excited by learning.
Yes. So Taylor Bradley and I are the ones that do the podcast together, and we literally just talked about this 2 days ago. So this is fun.
Okay.
So we try to record once a month, batch them out, right? So it's not like this constant thing. But there's different guests that we really enjoy, and so we're kind of like going to their schedule. Yeah. And so, but we're like, oh my God, every time we get off the podcast, whether it's just like an hour, our day just rocks, like it's just so cool because not only are you getting to talk about things again, unfiltered at your own time, you get to go for it. Cause I think like when you tangent in conversations and like you said, you get to learn and you get to share, it is so cool. And it does fill our cups for sure. 100% agree with you.
Yeah. It is a kind of funny thing because sometimes it's a little draining, right? Because for me, I'm kind of like back with meetings and things like that. The meetings don't fill the cup. This does.
No, meetings are awful. So just yesterday, it's so funny. I'm like, I feel like, what do you bug my office?
I'm weirdly intuitive like that. I don't know. I'm weirdly intuitive.
Because just yesterday I had because I had a couple of execs that are going on vacation or when I had some scheduling conflict. And so I was in back back to back 45 minutes with all the different execs, all different times. And I got so irritated, and I could feel myself getting negative, which is very rare for me. And I was like, okay, I'm getting negative because I don't like this. Meetings to me are not productive.
Yeah.
Unless they're like war room meetings where it's like, all right, we're just getting all this stuff done, you know?
Right.
And I was so negative yesterday, and I was in my head, and I was just sharing with a colleague of mine. I'm like, I needed to like get out of that mode. I have to, like, you don't get to work. Like you said, like you don't get to work, and it drives me crazy.
Yeah. There isn't a way for me not to have weekly meetings with my team. Because we're an agency, right? And I'm kind of one of the biggest driving forces of it. I help with strategy. So if there's not someone kind of leading and kind of strategizing, as we grow, I think things will change, and some of that will be off of me. But, unfortunately, that is kind of my thing. And so I do just have to be there. But it's a weird thing. I learned in one of the, I had a podcast guest. He was talking about kind of like leadership and giving yourself kind of space. And his thing was pause often. And I've really taken that to heart. Like before I jumped in here, I kind of did that. It's a weird thing when you're like, and then you just pause.
Breathe. Yeah.
And it's just a kind of a crazy, so I like learned so many like little things like that where I try not to jump in, super stressed. That said, when I jumped in the room before you came in, I was like, So my producer always sees me a little bit like kind of crazy, and I'm like, the fact that my hair is actually dry is a big thing. Sometimes I'm like, my hair is wet, and I'm just like, I'm here. We got it done. Yeah. What is work-life balance? I don't know. It doesn't exist today.
I hear you. Don't beat yourself up, because I do that too. So what you need to get is, do you like the smell of eucalyptus?
Weirdly enough, there's a eucalyptus tree outside my door. But yes, I do like it.
Okay. So I have a shower spray, and that just kind of triggers me to, you're like breathing in deeply. It's kind of like you're at a spa, you're about to get a massage. So that really calms me down so much that I realized that smell triggers a niceness in my mind that I now bring it to work. So if ever I'm having those moments you're talking about, I spray it real quick and I go. So it's kind of like the same effect that if I'm in a shower.
I love that. I love that. All right. I feel like for me, I kind of like, I like the smell of jasmine. It kind of reminds me of like going on vacation. I thought it was interesting. You're talking about kind of defining success and what it means. Like, I feel like that's always such a crazy thing where I feel like there's sometimes guilt involved with defining success. Do you agree?
So, okay. Do you mean guilt because you feel bad other people don't have it, or where's the guilt?
I want to make this certain amount of money. I want to be a CEO. I mean, I know, sometimes, I don't come from a type A family, and I'm a type A person. So sometimes I'm just like, they're always like, she's out in left field doing some crazy stuff. So, but sometimes I feel a little kind of guilty because I'm disappointed if I don't meet a goal or achieve something. But I'm just like, but it doesn't mean that you not achieving those goals is wrong. Like, so I don't know. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, that's why I was clarifying, because like that's how I feel. So I reached this point. So I sold techies a year ago, like almost to the day, and I didn't even have time to enjoy it, to celebrate it, to do any of those things. Which, by the way, I very much preach. So I had reached that level of success that I didn't go out looking for, but I made it. And I was like, cool. Well, now I have 2 other companies that I need to focus on. No time for that. And I realized, and then so in that sale, I was actually able to pay off one of my houses. And I didn't tell anybody. Like, actually, I'm literally telling the podcast right now, probably like, if anyone listens, like, they'll be like, what, really? But I never told anybody. And it was because of that guilt. It was like, I didn't want to ever be flashy or show people, look what I did, and you can't. But it's like, why do I feel guilty that I worked really hard for that? So that's
it is really true. I remember talking to my sister, and I was like, kind of like that. I kind of felt guilty with that, but I'm like, I know that the things that I've attained are not of interest to you, but they were, to me. And to me, I'm kind of like, yay, I've done this thing. I've gone on this vacation. I've done whatever it is that I wanted to do. And she's like, no, you should never feel guilty, and you should always be like super proud of these kind of milestones, but it does feel kind of, sometimes it does feel kind of guilty because you're like, yeah, I mean, if unless you're completely, tone deaf, head in the sand, you know what's going on in the world. So you're just kind of like, my wins compared to some of the world stuff. You're just like, So I get it. Yeah,
Yeah. I have been asked that too, like with opening 2 more companies. They're like, well, you know where the world is right now. Like, why are you opening 2 more companies? I was like,
but why wouldn't
you
you
think about it? Like, what do you mean?
No, but why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't I think about where the world was?
Open a company to fill a need?
Well, Exactly. They were just kind of like, why wouldn't you think of all the other things that are going on? I'm like, well, that's not my world. Like, that might be other people's world, but like, I'm in it. Like, I'm going. I see the gaps. I see what needs to be fixed. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting to be asked those questions. And then you have
that's
reflect.
Such a weird. Yeah. It's a weird. I mean, it's a weird thing. I definitely think 2020, 2021. It taught a lot of people that the word pivot was like the word of 2020. But it taught people that they had to do something different. And the ones that were agile, the ones that made changes, those are the ones that kind of really were able to succeed. It's just, the world kind of just went upside down. It is a very weird thing. But I mean, for our business, it taught people that people need to be online more and they need to curate their personal brand more than they ever have, because in-person networking and all that kind of stuff, they couldn't do it anymore. And now people are like, I found all these online things that I can do. In-person networking is cool, but I'd rather meet people from around the world rather than just my area.
Right. Because now it's possible. But the same thing's happening in recruiting right now. And so we have, there's been a roller coaster the last 2 years, because it went from like really scary, no one has jobs, to, oh my gosh, what are we thinking? Like now we need to hire again. So then our salaries, our fees, all that stuff went up. And then now the same thing is happening where everyone's scared again. And of course, talent acquisition always gets let go first. And it's like, didn't you guys learn last time? Because I bet you, come next year again, come 2023, this is going to happen all over and you're going to pay for it.
It is a weird.
Yeah, it's wild to me.
They don't.
People don't actually learn.
I've been laid off. And you get laid off, there's a down, then they got to hire again. Oh, imagine that. Yeah. Oh. It is well, I mean, you have to fix the problems in the business.
And what you were talking about makes me think of like, I use that word for, I say scrappy. Yeah. Like scrappy wins every time, because it's like, there's a lot of people that are scared of startups. And I have also gone through that in my 2 new businesses as well, because I'm remote first there. So I went from in office with techies to remote first. And that's been a challenge, because people want to be in a startup, they want to make a difference, but they don't realize what it actually takes. And when we talk about pivot, it's like, talk about a pivot. It's like, we're doing literally all day long. And they're like, I hear there's too much change. It's like, what do you mean? Like, that's what it is.
Well, like, I mean, I'm sure, I would love to know your take on kind of, when you are in the recruiting, business, there was a whole point where there were so many people looking for jobs and there weren't enough jobs, and then it changed. So during that time when there were not enough jobs to go around, how important was the personal brand?
It's everything. I mean, so here's the only disconnect I have to this, because I do software engineers, so I'm tech. And so it's like, there's never not enough jobs, there's always tons of jobs. So for them, it's a little bit of a different market, but I have done like the recruiter for recruiters, and we've done other things as well. And it's like, okay, wow, when LinkedIn really matters, your profile really matters. And if someone is on your profile and they have even 3 questions, you didn't do a good enough job on your LinkedIn profile, and it's like, people are starting to realize, I'm going to make content. Well, but who's your content to and why? And so I think there's a lot of identity crisis right now. I'm sure you see it a lot when it comes to actually marketing yourself, branding yourself, because it seems like this scary thing. Oh, I'm putting myself out there, but it's like, but what for? You need to have a presence, but why? And what is that presence? Yeah. So I can only imagine all the things you deal with.
It definitely has to be very focused. It is an interesting thing how people are just kind of now starting to realize it. Yeah. And it could either be a hot mess or it could be very good. So have you seen like kind of both? I mean, obviously not with maybe your particular people that you're recruiting for, but other people in that field that they can, you have like the difference between the hot mess and the very methodical personal brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have two. And then it's like who I also help as well as people that are wanting to start their own recruiting agency. And that's one of the first conversations. Who is your market? Why does it look like, I mean, I was talking to someone the other day and their company wasn't even linked in their LinkedIn profile. And I was like, okay,
yeah,
let's start at the beginning. And they were asking me all these great questions, right? But I was like, look, I will get there. But if you don't do this first, it does not even matter.
I mean, before we even jumped in here, I did a Google search on you, lots of photos of you with bangs, without bangs, like all, I was like all, but so I just wanted to see what I found. And then, you jump in here, but I always think it's a good idea, whether I'm a guest or I have guests, like just do a little bit of research. That way you kind of have an idea of like what they're doing, what they've done, and that kind of thing, and kind of their voice essentially, because it just, sometimes I will literally look at it. I'll have the questions that maybe, that you gave, but I'll be like, I want to ask this question.
Yeah. We do the same thing as recruiters. I mean, like whether or not I'm hiring on my own team, it's we definitely look at all that stuff. And to think that people aren't going to look,
there was some stat that one of the businesses we used to have would help people with their online profiles, whether they were online dating or on LinkedIn. And it was something like over 90%. This was like 5+ years ago. It was 90-something% of recruiters will do a Google search and look at your LinkedIn profile. And I'm sure it's pretty much close to 100% at this point, because it's.
It has to be. Yeah. If it was that strong 5 years ago.
I know that I look at stuff, I mean, it's like when you're hired, sometimes it could either tell you, it could go both ways. If you're kind of neutral, then that's fine, right? But you may not even get a call to get an interview. But if it's great or if it's bad, like you're like, whoa, what were you thinking?
I think that stat's probably accurate now for just social media in general, like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I bet you people are fully looking at all of that, because I mean, I know we did a while ago, so I can only imagine now. So I think that's the interesting thing when you talk about personal brand and how powerful you are. Like it does matter your personal goes into professional.
Are you using your personal brand to build your business? And like, what are kind of some things that you're doing?
Yeah. So actually that's the hard part when we're talking about, I'm in meetings just like you. It's like, it is my brand that drives the business. It is my teachings, everything I've learned and stuff like that. So that's really difficult, because it's like everyone needs you. So it's like, well, we need this, we need that. Like, I mean, just yesterday we started this thing. Hey, what words do you like and not like? And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So we're really getting nitty gritty. And it wasn't just on a professional level. It was actually on a personal level as well, which I found to be interesting, because I think now with brands, even though it's like my lifestyle shouldn't matter, it does matter. And so I think that that's interesting, because like the millionaire recruiter persona, on YouTube, yes, it's very much me, but they also want to know, what are you doing? Like I want to do what you're doing. When I lived in Mexico, they wanted to see videos and photos and all those things. And so what I'm doing now for that is getting a little more social with things. I am letting people a little more in, which I got to tell you, I was really hesitant about. I got 2 little kids and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, what do I show? What do I not show? And then, so it's, I don't know. So yeah, I'm kind of having an interesting identity on what I do.
No, I kind of went the opposite way, because I used to be, I was in the influencer space. I would do tons of stuff on social media. I was constantly posting and photos and making sure that I was made up and my hair was done and blah, blah, blah. And, most of the time I'm not wearing makeup. My hair usually looks the same way because I just wash it and let it dry. But but basically I don't get ready every day like I used to get ready every day, and doing all the photo shoots and doing videos and all this stuff. I lean on videos like this, but I think that you just have to do what you're comfortable with. I kind of saw just so much negativity again, 2020 and 2021, just so much negativity. And I just kind of pulled back from that. I was like, there's so much negativity. I really just want nothing to do with it. I'm going to kind of keep my blinders on for a little bit and just do, my thing, and just not share my life, because I feel like there was so much negativity about people's lives. like jealousy and whatever. And I was like, I just don't want anything to do with that. So I agree that, you know, I do have clients that like to post their children. I would not post my children personally, but it has to be a choice. Mm-hmm. So I always say, do what makes you feel good. And like, and cause you're talking about like all of these things that you have to do what you can. That would be my advice. Like, do what you can. And then it's at a certain point, you know, maybe you want to do a little bit more, or, you know, like I've done a couple TikTok videos, like while I was out, like I was wine tasting and I shot a couple things and we put it together and did a TikTok and a reel out of it. But sometimes I don't feel like that. I was like, I don't want to be photographing my vacation or my day off.
Agreed.
Yeah.
100% agree. So I have been doing that. Like, I'd be like, okay, you know, if I need something like once a day, you know, if I feel like it, great. But like, I got to tell you, most of the time when I feel like it is at like 5 a.m. after my workout, you know? So it's like that's when I feel like it. And so, yeah, I have been posting more of like no makeup, stuff like that, you know? And sometimes with the kids, it's like, hey, if we're doing something really cool, we decorated for Halloween. It's like, okay, cool. Like I will share some stuff like that. It makes me feel comfortable. But yeah, I have been trying to just listen to myself. Yeah. So I love that you said that, because I'm like, do I feel guilty about this?
It is a hard thing, because I'm you know, do personal branding. So, but I'm in the same kind of thing. And I was finding in the influencer space that I was on social media so much. I was doing so much that I was like, I don't know. There was just this point where I'm like, I was at some event, I may have been at a concert or something. And I'm like, I'm literally watching the concert on my phone. What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me?
Yeah.
So I'm like, your life is you know, looking through this teeny phone, and what's the point of actually being there? And so then I kind of was like, I'm going to put the phone down.
So I just had this conversation last week with one of my employees, and she was at a comedy show and they took her phone. Cause, you know, also like I went to Bruno Mars, they took her phone. I love that. She had so much anxiety from it, because she was like, I don't know, like, she's like, I didn't know if I needed a work email. If my kids needed me, or, you know, but my husband was there, and she starts rambling. And I was like, hold on. That means there's something wrong and we need to fix this. You know, you have to be, when you're in it, you're in it. When you're out of it, you're out of it. And that should show you that you need to do better. And she's like, I know. So like, I think that was her epiphany too.
Yeah, go ask. That would be interesting. But I remember, I feel like my husband's more attached to his phone than I am. We went somewhere and we were late. And so we were down the street, and he's like, and I go, oh man, I forgot my phone. And he's like, do you want to turn back? And I'm like, no, we don't have time to turn back. And he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, I'm completely sure. If someone needs to get a hold of me, they know I'm with you. It's fine. Like, and I kind of felt free.
Yeah. I love that. So we have rules. And so like when you talk about the work-life balance, I'm not allowed to have my phone at the table. I definitely am not one of the ones that ever allows my kids on iPads at restaurants. Like that's not a thing. And then my fiance and I, if we ever go out on a date, like I'll literally text my ex and I'll be like, hey, I'm out. Like you're good. Right. And like, you know, cause if I do worry, cause you have to, right? You have to worry about your kids, but it's like, I fully trust him. He's a great dad. So it's like, what like who has to get a hold of me? Like no one. So we'll leave our phones. Like we'll keep them in the car, wherever we are. Right. And it's just great. And there's no reason. And then, you know, we don't have tons of pictures, right? But it's like, it's okay. We enjoy that.
It is an interesting thing, because I have so many pictures of everything I did for like 5 years, every trip I did, everything I ate, everything. And now like, since pretty much 2020 and beyond, like, I'm like, I have no photos of us doing that. I have no photos of me and my husband at this event or wine tasting or something. And I'm just like, like I'm kind of going like, I miss not having the photos.
You know, what's funny is, and I'm very vocal about this, but I tell everyone, look, I am not on social media. If something's happening in your life, I want to hear about it. Send me pictures, please, directly. I had a good friend of mine, had a baby and posted on Instagram. And again, I'm not on there. Like now I'm starting to post, but it's really my team that's doing that. Like I send in the stuff, because I don't like to scroll. The only thing I scroll is LinkedIn and Pinterest actually. And so, that's my bag. And so anyways, she had her baby. I had no idea. I literally text her. I was like, hey, like, aren't you like, what's going on? How are you feeling? She's like, oh, I had him 2 weeks ago. Here's a photo. And I'm like, are you serious? You're serious. But yeah,
Yeah.
it just,
And I had a friend that got
consumes
engaged
you.
and I didn't know until, she's like, you didn't see the photos? I'm like, no. And so I went back and I'm like, oh yeah, you got engaged 2 weeks ago. Wasn't on Instagram. Yeah. Like it is funny. I basically, sometimes I'll be on there, and I'll have my friends like DM me. I'm like, you have my text. You have my phone. Just text me.
I say email me. Yeah.
Like
email
my
me.
team's
Like
saying, you have this message. I think it's one of your friends. Do you want to respond? And I'm like, she knows. What is she doing? There's just too many communication. Like that's the Slack thing. I'm like, there's too many communication things that people are just like, oh, didn't you get my message? And I had someone was like, didn't you get my message in Facebook Messenger? I'm like, seriously? I haven't opened up Facebook in like 3 years. No, I haven't gotten it. Sorry, you didn't get me. They're like, you didn't get my birthday wish? I'm like, nope. Yeah.
I could tangent on that all day.
Oh my God. Oh, this was like a fun little conversation. I feel like the biggest thing that I hope someone takes from it is work-life balance and do what makes you feel good. I think that was like kind of like the overriding kind of thing, that it's a good thing to be in when you can be comfortable being like, you know what? No, I don't feel comfortable doing that. So I want to know what 3 tips can you give the audience? Like, I'm going to open it up to whatever you want, whether it's recruiting, whether it's work-life balance. What 3 tips do you want to give the audience?
When it comes to success, keep tabs on yourself. So I like to put 5 things that I want to accomplish, like non-negotiables within, 3 to 6 months. Nothing like, oh, here's my 5-year plan. I think that's insane. And then when I decide what 5 things I want to accomplish, I have another Post-it that has like the micro goals, like the mini things to get to each and every one of those. So then I still feel like I've accomplished things. I cross them off, I highlight, whatever. I take a picture. Actually, I have a little envelope that I keep those. So whenever I want to be like, hey, did I actually achieve something? What's my success look like? I go back and I read it. That for sure, because I think you have to keep tabs on yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to feel like a failure. And I think that's the worst feeling like ever. So that would definitely be one. I think when it comes to being an entrepreneur, I think what's really important is to realize like the why behind things, because I have a lot of people that come to me, and I'm assuming for you as well, that's like, hey, I want to start my own whatever, right? Normally it's recruiting agency, but sometimes they won't even have recruiting experience. And they're just like, they just decided one day, like, this is what they were going to do. And I was like, holy moly. So I definitely the why behind being an entrepreneur, it's not easy. There's nothing easy about it.
It's so not easy. It's not the easy decision.
No. And so I think to piggyback on that, I would say, when you're hiring, know why. Like, again, why do I need this person? And then is this a full-time job, or is this a contractor that I could grab? And if it's not a contractor, then what are they going to do? And then but additionally, it's like you have to have a plan for them, and you can't just assume that they're going to hit the ground running to what you wanted. Because I think lots of times, I'm sure you can relate, like you're kind of in your head, and what you want, and how it's supposed to go. And you don't tell them that, or you don't articulate it to the point that they understand. Because I think when you're having conversations with people, they listen to only a certain point, because people listen to respond, not understand. So I think I've also had issues with that as well.
People listen to respond, not understand. Interesting. I'm actually going to be on this. I had a guest, and I'm actually going to be on his podcast in an hour. And that was kind of one of the things that he was talking about. Is a lot of times that, he would have like his kids even like repeat it back to me. Like, what did I actually ask you to do? Because they were like, they just responded and they were like, yeah, I wasn't listening. And so he was saying, because he was talking about like management and communication and how that is so key. So you both were on the exact same page with that, just kind of with a different way of articulating it. So interesting. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll even be in like an all hands meeting, right? And so people hear all sorts of different things, because again, they're only like, people's attention span is so short at this point, which is really sad, like guppies. So what I do now is I send out what we call the squawk, but it's this newsletter, basically a recap. Here's literally all like a high level points of what we went over. So don't tell me that you didn't hear it and you didn't see it. Like,
yeah,
you
no, I like
can't
that.
do that anymore.
There's so many little nuggets in here. Thank you so much, Brianna. This has been a really fun conversation. I definitely learned a lot and reiterated that. Yeah, that's a good idea to do that kind of recap thing. But again, one more thing on my plate, but.
One more thing. I know, but I will say that one does strong, because I think we put in all these like safety nets for people when it's really like, just do your job, right? But that safety net, I will say that one works, because no one can,
or they
anything.
might, but you're like, no, there's the email,
Nope.
They'll learn that they can't say that again, because they're like, oh yeah, I did that last time and I learned the hard way that it didn't work. Interesting. Oh, see, again, you always get like little nuggets. Like, okay, you know what? I just learned something today. So thank you so much for that. Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah,
no, it's been
so
super fun. Thank you for having me.
Conversation. And thank you for listening and watching. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye.